Hey guys, we're back at it again with our continued beginner's tutorial on how to get past your point. You know, if you're trying to get past wintertime, if you're trying to get past summertime, if you're trying to get past springtime. We're currently on day 4, as you've seen in the last video. So we're going to jump back in there and we're going to be kind of showing you the next steps inside the tutorial. So before we left, we actually got back into, we were making the science machine. We made our fire pit and we chose a proper area where we wanted to sit and make a base. Now our next thing that we're going to be doing is making a few other items that you're going to see in the game here soon. And that's going to make it so you guys can see exactly what possibly the next steps might be. As soon as we get in there, we'll kind of go over a few things. And if you guys have any questions, make sure that you guys leave them in the comments. If you guys have any questions or think that we should have done something different, it's always good to kind of hear a little bit of feedback as well from you guys as well too. So without further ado, let's jump in. So as long as you're exiting out of the game, your game is going to always basically be at that point if you're the one hosting it. Obviously, if you join a public server, chances are that server is going to continue to go on without you. So I would suggest if you are playing beginners, try to play with a few friends and host it up yourself. That way you're able to kind of see how things progress. I hear a lot of people actually join in public servers and they find out later on that, oh no, you know, things like kind of went on without me and now everybody has like a ton of armor. So if you remember last time we had little Chester with us as well too, kind of explain that with Chester, you find yourself with a eye bone that's randomly placed around the map. Usually you can find Chester bones, I think is usually located in a few of the same biomes. I always look for it at the ones that have the mandrakes. And the mandrakes, we'll talk about that after when we get in. So we have our friends joining up, Rob and Kiri again. Hello, Rob and Kiri. And then we're going to start out by going and finding a few things. Before you do anything, as soon as you make that science machine, the first thing you should be able to make right away with everything that we got is a backpack. Now, backpacks, obviously, it doesn't matter what skin you have, but let's go with a nice, cool looking one for the stream. Let's go with a Weber backpack, considering Weber's my favorite character. Now, inventory management is something that a lot of people kind of have their own way. If you want to have certain things certain ways, you can. I like to, as soon as I get a backpack, the first thing I like to do is go ahead and I like to take all my food and put it in my backpack. So you can start it by doing that. You can leave the petals in there as well too. Do not eat petals. The only reason that you would eat a petal is if you're in an emergency situation. As you can see, the petal heals you for +1. But I'm going to tell you, please keep the petals for as long as you can. Next thing for your organization in your inventory that I like to do, pan flute in your backpack, gold in your backpack, and then start to organize things kind of start to finish. So you have, like, for example, your tools here, and then you have your twigs, you have your grass, you have your rocks, and you have your flint, like that. Now, one thing that I like doing in my inventory as well too is I like placing things with the most on the right-hand side to the least. So now I know when I'm going out there, I need rocks. It's kind of a reminder to tell you, hey, I don't have very many of these things. I need to get more of them. As soon as you have the science machine as well too, you can start to see that multiple different things in your inventory are now accessible. If you walk away from the science machine, you can't make them. So you need the science machine. It's like a brain station. It's going to give you more capabilities than just walking around normally. So we're going to make ourselves what we need to stay protected. First, we're going to make ourselves one rope, which is used by getting grass. And we're going to make ourselves a spear. I'm going to go with a basic skin so you guys can see exactly what it is. But it requires 2 twigs, 1 rope, and 1 flint. So that's why flint is really important in this game. Now, late game, flint won't be as important. But that's kind of like down the road, so we won't really kind of talk about that right now. Every now and then, you're going to notice that seeds drop on the ground. Make sure you pick these up. They're good resources to just eat really quickly. Birds will drop them every now and then near you, especially if you have another character playing with you called Wormwood. But that's also kind of late game stuff as well too. So make sure that you have yourself a torch again. Let's make ourselves an extra one just in case. So we have our main torch, our backup torch, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to look around for some logs. So I want to chop down a few trees and I want to get something else, as I mentioned before, that we're going to need for when the hounds attack. The next thing after you make the science machine and the fire pit, you should try to focus on making yourself the alchemy engine. Now, the Alchemy Engine is basically the upgraded version of the science machine. It doesn't need to be your next step, but it should be. It should be something that you're looking to do before day 10. And there's a few reasons for this. One is the Alchemy Engine gets you a lot of important recipes that you can't get otherwise. And especially one of those recipes is something that you're going to need in order to make better recipes with food and everything too. So we're going to wait here for nighttime to show up. And as soon as nighttime shows up, we're just going to kind of wander around and see what's out here as we were doing before. Try not to get anywhere close to any spiders. Always try to stay away from them if you can early on until you have something that we're going to make here in a few seconds. I think we might have most of the things that we need for the Alchemy Engine already, but if we do, I'll go back and show you what we need. I'm just going to continue to kind of wander around and explore more of the map, and this is a good thing to do at nighttime. If you're playing a game and you're curious what to do at nighttime other than just stand at the base there with a torch in your hand, always explore that's close to your base, so then that way you can always run back if anything happens. I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to light some of these trees on fire, and this is going to come into what we're going to be using here in a few seconds, which is called a crock pot. Now, a crock pot is what you use to make better recipes. It requires stone, it requires charcoal, and it requires twigs as well too. So you need basically all those things to make them. So burning early game trees is a really good idea. If you find yourself in an area like this that's very condensed, try not to burn that up because you're going to find yourself a wildfire is going to spread very, very fast and probably give you more issues later on. And you're not going to have a lot of trees to chop down. But keep in mind that trees are always renewable in this game, so no matter what, you're always going to have a lot on you. And as I mentioned before, when it comes to fires, walk off screen. You'll never have to worry about that fire spreading any further because there's nobody around it to stand near to let it continue to spread. So we're going to walk away. We're going to go over here. Remember, red caps are not really our friends right now, so we're going to ignore those for a little while. And we're going to continue to let our petals rot. And you can see that the spoil meter says spoiling in 2.7 days, and that's going to continue to count down until it's fully finished. So at our base, once again, you can see that there's some resources on the ground already. We have cut stone, we have some boards, and we have some gold. Now, gold obviously can be gathered from these things that you see here, which are your rocks. That you would find that has like the gold inside of them. The ones that we went over that do not contain niter, they contain only gold rocks, and they also contain flint as well too. Next up, boards. Boards are made from logs. So whenever you chop down a tree, you go to Refine tab and you click on your board section, and four of them will create one board. So somebody already did that for us, so they've already got that all set up. Next up, we're gonna make the cut stone. Now, we don't have a lot of rocks on us, but these cut stones were already made. So rocks are the same idea. In order to make cut stone, you need to refine actual rocks themselves. So that's all good. And we look under the science tab now. You can see that we're only missing things known as electrical doodads. Now, electrical doodads are made by taking yourself with a cut stone and going back to your science tab and clicking on electrical doodads. It's 2 gold pieces and 1 cut stone. So we're going to need 1, and then we're going to need another one. Now we go back to the science tab. We have enough to make the Alchemy Engine. I'm going to go with the basic Alchemy Engine skin so you guys can see this. Now the Alchemy Engine is exactly what I said it is before. It's the upgraded version of the science machine. So that doesn't mean as soon as you get this, you should honestly just like smash up and destroy your science machine, but you can do that to gather certain resources. So generally, as soon as the Alchemy Engine's up, I usually smash up the science machine in order to get the resources from it, but I'm going to leave it up for now just because like I said, if any point your Alchemy Engine gets set on fire, or if somebody smashes it up for some reason, or if a boss comes over and hits it, you always have a backup science machine in case you absolutely need it. So let's just leave it up for now. The next step that we're going to be looking for is what I mentioned before, which is the crock pots. The crock pots are what's going to get us the best recipes in the game. Otherwise, you're basically stuck with eating simple resources, which you don't really want to do. So we're looking for a bunch more rocks. We're looking for the charcoal, and we have the twigs already. On the ground, one of our friends has already gathered us enough rocks, so that's okay. We don't have to go ahead and do that. We're going to head over and we're going to check on our area that has all of the burnt down trees, and hopefully they are all ready to be cut down. Now, remember, pigs are always friendly to you as long as you're human, so you can always hang around the pigs. Don't have to worry about those. And there's a few tricks along the way that you'll learn about pigs in the future, but we won't go too far into them. Just remember that standing next to the pigs or standing next to any type of mobs when you're making your first base might not be the best option. I find a lot of people, tend to stay near the beefalo, and this is a good idea, but it's also a very bad idea at the same time too. And the reason because of that is certain mobs have different abilities that they have throughout the year. And for example, pigs on a full moon, which you'll see here in a few tutorials from now, will turn into what is known as a werepig. And the werepigs will hurt you and try to kill you. So that is one reason why staying next to mobs generally the entire time is not necessarily a great idea. Now, beefalo go through the same stages. Not necessarily, they don't turn into were-beefalos, but they turn into, they basically go into mating season and they have red butts. Now, when they have the red butts, you can't go near them for usually an entire season. Sometimes they'll last a little bit longer. And this can happen a few times a year as well, too. So you want to make sure that if you are going to be near mobs, maybe it should only be a temporary base. At least something to kind of just like let you stand by for a little while, while you maybe choose an actual other starting position. So we're going to go back there and we're going to make ourselves a few, or maybe if anything, just one crock pot right now. I usually suggest, depending on how many people you're playing with, make more than one crock pot. The one thing that you always want to make sure that is that if there's 6 people, I would suggest 2 crock pots. If there's 3 people, you might get away with only 1. It just depends on how many people are in your server at the time. So we're going to look at our food tab, and then we're going to go over here, and we're missing 2 cut stone. So let's go ahead and let's make 1, 2. One thing to note, the idea little light bulb thing that shows up in here, there's 2 reasons why that shows up. One, it's to let you know that you have new ideas, things that you can make. For example, you have items in your inventory that are lighting up telling you, hey, you have some stuff in your inventory that adds up to make something that you haven't made before. That's a good thing. The other reason is my sanity level is currently at 198. But if I go ahead and I make myself 1 new board, I'm not going to make it right now because I do need it in order to make a few things after. But if I go ahead and I make this board, it's going to increase my sanity by a certain percentage. I believe it's 10. I think it is. I'll have my friends confirm exactly how much sanity you get from it. But yeah, so the one thing that you always want to make sure that you do is that if you are making 15, sorry, it ups it by 15. So if you are planning on making a few things at your base and you're very low on sanity, this would be a good time to do it. If you're full on sanity, you don't necessarily have to wait, but sometimes I wait for it just to kind of make my sanity go back to the full that it can be. So let's go ahead and make that crock pot. I'm going to go with the basic skin again so that you guys can kind of relate to it. So the crock pot is now going to be 3 cut stone, 6 pieces of charcoal, and 6 twigs, and it's ready to be made. Go ahead and refill that fire so we can stay near it as well too. Standing next to a fire, right next to it, is not a great idea. You never want to be right next to it when you're inside of your base. You want to be around it, otherwise you're going to be overheating. During the summertime, you're going to be finding yourself making something other than a fire pit, but we won't talk about that just yet. But just keep that in mind that a fire pit is kind of the start, and then eventually you'll be making a few more. So you don't want to kind of cram your base too full right away, but you want to spend some time to make sure that you leave yourself a little bit of space in your base, and try to leave some room in between certain machines. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to make ourselves a little crock pot station, and we're going to do it a little bit further away. So we have a little bit of room. So when people are cooking or adding stuff to the fridge, which you'll see here in a second, that you'll have enough room for that. So the crock pot is made. We're going to go ahead and make the most basic recipe that you can make in this game. Now, before adding these spoiled foods, generally what I suggest doing, which I don't really do that often, but I really should start doing more often, is always cook your food so it's in the green. When your food is in the green, it tells the game that you're going to be converting it from stale into a cooked and no longer stale format. So you basically are giving yourself a better recipe when it's in the green. I'll show you here the difference in a second. So we're cooking our berries, we're cooking our meat, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put the stale meat in first. So stale meat, 3 stale berries. So the beautiful thing about the Show Me mod as well too that I really like is it tells you how long you have. It tells you how long you have on your meat on your countdown timer before your meatballs are finished. So that's why the Show Me mod I think is a really great mod, because it kind of tells you how long you can kind of prepare while you do other things while you wait for your food to finish. So we're gonna grab our meatballs, and you can tell that they are good, but they're gonna spoil in 6.9 days. So now we're gonna take our cooked ones and our cooked berries, and these will give us meatballs as well too, but they're gonna be better off than these ones were. So that's why I mean, if you ever are making anything in the crock pot, always cook whatever you're going to be doing beforehand, unless it's at the full bar. If at any point in time, these berries were 100% fresh and that meat was 100% fresh, don't waste your time in cooking them. But you can tell that I accidentally added, sorry, what actually happens in the game, if you do have a meatball in the crock pot and you have a meatball in your inventory, is automatically going to then take it and add it to your stack of whatever you had. So it actually added it to my previous stack, so we didn't get a chance to see it. But as you can tell, it was higher than this one because it was previously 6.9 days. Now it's up to 7.5. So chances are that secondary meatball was probably almost 100% fresh. So that's kind of what you want to do, and meatballs are your basic recipe in this game, and it's a recipe that you can keep having for a long time, and it's not going to be one that you're not going to stop using, because meatballs are really, really easy to make. It requires one basic meat, so of any kind. So if you go and you kill a rabbit, for example, and you get one morsel, or if you kill a spider and you get one monster meat, and you put 3 filler of any kind inside of a crock pot, you'll get that meatball. So that's your basic recipe for now that you want to stick with. So where do I put this food? It seems like it's spoiling quite quickly. Well, as I mentioned before, your next step is going to be making the fridge. Now, in Don't Starve Together, they haven't done this yet, but I believe in the future they're probably gonna work on it, is making things accessible while you're cooking. So what I mean by that is that if you are in the fridge, which you'll see here in a second, you want to make sure that you place your crock pots down first, because if you're in the fridge, you're going to want to be able to access your crock pots while you do so. In Don't Starve Together, there is a little bit of issues with planting certain items. For example, chests that you'll see here in a second when I'm about to make them, you can plant them very close to other structures, but certain other structures can't be placed right next to each other. And this is due to certain restrictions. For example, I'm not too sure if it has anything to do with the game not allowing or wanting to, for example, there's like a thing called the Fling-O-Matic, and that will help to keep our base safe during the summertime. That is one item in this game that you can't place things very close to, and it might be due to an animation that it doesn't want to be blocked. Although, I'm not too sure exactly, so I can't really comment too much on that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to make ourselves a fridge. Fridges are really easy. You have 2 gold, 1 gear, and 1 cut stone. Now, generally to get yourself a gear, which we're going to show here in a second how to do it, you can either find gears and certain things known as tumbleweeds, which are located over here in the biomes that we're going to walk to after. And you can also find them in things known as clockworks. Now, clockworks are basically little robots that walk around, and they're going to try to fight you when you get close to them. So once I'm done making this fridge here, we're going to go around and we're going to look for some clockworks, and we'll fight them, and we'll show you how to basically defeat them early games in order to get yourself the gears. And we'll show you, if you don't feel like fighting but you prefer to resort to some RNG and hope to get some, we can go to another biome that potentially can get you some easy gears. So let's go ahead and make sure that we get our cut stone. Then we're going to see that there's now the tab that's open. Our sanity is at 196. Go ahead to our ice box, choose the basic skin. We have the 2 gold, the 1 gear we need, and the 1 cut stone. And now we've successfully made ourselves a fridge. Now I do have 2 pieces of gears here, so I'm going to make 2 fridges just because. And remember, we want our petals to rot. So letting these rot is perfect. Let's go ahead and place our fridge. Let's place this one a little bit. Let's place this one in the middle because I don't know if we're going to really need to go all out on that, but I think the middle is probably a good spot for it. So as I mentioned before, crock pots first, icebox second. Now, I can open up the fridge. I can put everything inside of it. I can now access each crock pot from the vicinity away from me. So this is exactly why you want to make sure that you place the crock pots first. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself in a predicament where you're not going to be able to actually access them. So if you, for example, place the icebox first, the closest you can get to is probably going to be over here, and it's gonna kind of damper if you're able to access them well. It just becomes kind of a hassle, and it doesn't necessarily have to happen. You don't have to have it, but just for more convenience, it's kind of like the way that I like to do things, and I feel like it might be easier for you when you're making any sorts of recipes. Okay, so we have obviously a lot of stuff that's just spread around on the ground. So before we go out and look for clockworks, because we have to survive another night, while it's nighttime, I'm going to ask if any of my friends that are in the server can help me by holding a torch while I chop down a few trees. So I'm going to chop down a few trees. We're going to try to get just a few more logs. We don't need very many, but I'm going to make us a chest inside of the game. So one recommendation that I have is try not to get rid of any small trees. You always want to make sure that you destroy the bigger trees so that way you get more wood from it, and it's a little bit easier to get more pine cones from it, so that way for future planting you always make sure that you have extras. I'm just going to get enough wood here so we can make it. Now, in order to make the chest, some recipes you can see without actually having the science machine. But some recipes you can't. Now, you're going to see people fighting. Our friends are currently fighting one of the bosses that spawns in from actually chopping trees. So a tree guardian won't just randomly walk around the map. A tree guardian spawns in when you've got your naughtiness level from chopping too many trees. So you're going to want to make sure that when you're chopping trees, you be careful, because if you chop too many and you don't reverse plant a lot of pine cones, you're going to end up with a lot of tree guardians. So if you happen to come across a tree guardian, one way is to learning the kiting patterns, which we're not going to get into right now, but is to either fight them with your friends and get rid of the tree guardian. Another option is to leave the tree guardian alone and instead plant your pine cones in the ground. Now, a tree guardian, as long as it's near you, will recognize you planting, as long as I believe it's if you're the one that was attacking it originally. But if you are to then plant the pine cones in the ground, you appease the tree guardian, and it can sometimes go back into its regular state of becoming a tree again. Now, the one thing you should know about tree guardians is they don't give up. So if a tree guardian is attacking you and you decide to run away, it's going to then still follow you. It might take a very long time to get to you, but it will still find you on the map and locate you on the map. So that is one thing that is a little bit different than other mobs. Some mobs you can get away from by just running away and they won't follow you. For example, bees, if they're in a certain area, they go back to their bee farm or they go back to their bee huts. Now, a tree guardian does not do that, so just always be careful about that. Okay, so we got the logs that we wanted to get, so I'm going to go back here and I'm going to make myself some boards. Once again, my sanity went back up almost to the full amount that it should be. We're going to make ourselves 3 boards, and now we're going to look at what else we can make. Underneath the structures tab, this is the next important thing for your base, and this is going to be a chest. Now, obviously a chest, pretty straightforward. It's for adding stuff into your base rather than leaving it on the ground to be grabbed by, mobs or anything that's close by that can potentially eat it or anything. So we're going to take these, and now we're going to put the stuff that we want to rot inside of the chest. If at any point in time you had something that you obviously did not want to rot, you can put it inside the fridge. Some food will have restrictions as to if it can go inside of a fridge or not, but those are only certain foods that we won't really talk about that much right now. So anything that you find on the ground that you don't want to just be sitting there, you want to clean up your base a little bit, perfect reason for having chests. So let's go ahead and put some stuff away. Some silk. maybe a firefly or two, but we're going to keep the firefly because I'm going to show you something that I like making here. We'll put the extra charcoal in there because we don't need that. Some cut reeds we're not going to get into right now. We have our extra grass and we have our extra twigs. Now, the full stack of twigs in my inventory are set to 40. So as soon as you have 40 of something in your inventory, I generally recommend don't keep more than that because you don't need to have that as soon as you have a base. As soon as you are exploring and you're walking through and you're trying to find yourself an area, that's an okay time to keep more than 40. But once you establish a base, make sure that you put that stuff inside of a chest so that way if you do die, you don't accidentally burn everything up. For example, you're going to come across mobs that are going to cause you to catch on fire and things like that. So if you die in these situations and you tend to burn up 60, 65 or plus grass or twigs, unfortunately you're going to lose the whole stack and you might end up losing everything that you have. Now, another cool thing about this game is that resources can be used even further. So you see these 3% pickaxes. Most people will just say, okay, throw those in the garbage. They're not good to be used. Now, what I suggest for these is always keep them available because pickaxes are the one weapons that could be used to upgrade to something else in the game, which is called a thermal stone. And a thermal stone is going to be used late game when you're getting into winter time. And before you get into winter, you're going to definitely need a thermal stone. So we have enough rocks right now, and we have 2 3% pickaxes. So let's go ahead. We're going to go to the survival tab, and we're going to make ourselves a thermal stone. It requires 10 rocks, 1 pickaxe, and 3 flint. Be careful, though, because if you decide to make a thermal stone too early and deplenish your rock supply, it could kind of put you in a situation where you notice that you probably shouldn't have done that before you made a fire pit. So that's why I always suggest do all these things before, do the steps that we showed you before, going through the process of making extra tools. So we have our torch, we have our axe, we have our thermal stone, we have a pickaxe, and we have another pickaxe. All right. So in the morning, we're gonna go out with our friends if they manage to find us some clockworks, if we find some clockworks together, and then we're also gonna go over to the biome that has a boss in it, but also has some goodies in it as well too. So I see that they're over there. They're collecting some more rocks. In our inventory, we are really low on rocks, so we're gonna look on the map to find out where rocks can spawn. This is a killer bee biome, as we mentioned before. Try to stay away from that unless you absolutely need to. And you can see that some rocks are over here, but our big rock supplies are going to be coming from this biome right here, which is the meteor biome, which we're kind of near right now. Now, over here in this area, there are other rocks as well too, but these biomes have generally like certain mobs that will spawn on them. As you can see in this this meteor biome, there is the Tallbird Fortress. I won't go too close to it right now. Potentially when we get ourselves some more armor and some more healing, I'll go back to you guys and show what happens. There's things in this game called set pieces. Now, set pieces are made and don't starve together for adding certain things like the Tallbird Fortress that I mentioned right now. There's the Crater Graveyard. There is the McTusk Camps. There's so many different set pieces in this game that to kind of go through, but as time goes on and if we manage to get a few set pieces in this world, I will show you. So let's go over there and let's help them do that. But of course, do I really want to be holding a torch in this game the entire time while I'm chopping? There's two options behind this. One option is going into the caves, which we're not going to do right now. We'll do that later on, and getting yourself something known as the light bulb. Keep that for future reference because that is something to look into. But I don't want to do that. So we had our friend, I believe it was Rob. He grabbed ourselves one silk, or a stack of silk, and he went to the survival tab, and he scrolled up, and he looked for what is called a bug net. Now, a bug net is extremely useful in this game. You can use it as many times as you want. I'm not going to make one because there's one right to my right. But you can see that it requires 1 rope, 2 silk, and 4 twigs. If you manage to get a bug net early on before day 10, you're going to be in a really good situation. So I'm going to actually go through, and I have what I need in my inventory, but I'm going to wait to show you guys exactly what you need. So nighttime rolls around. Make sure you have your torch with you. Make sure that you're looking around and you're looking around and you're looking for what we mentioned earlier, which are the fireflies. Now remember, fireflies help you in the pure darkness when you're walking around. They don't appear when you're out of light. They generally appear at certain biomes more than others. Usually, if you're looking for fireflies, the best place to find them is in the mosaic biomes, which are basically over there, in the deciduous biomes. But if you're looking for, instead of getting too far into the names, we're basically gonna say near the Pig King, because that's basically the biome that you're gonna need to be in to find the fireflies. They're not necessarily easy to find. They could be sporadic. They could also be there could be an abundance at one point in time, but in order to catch them at nighttime is the only time to do this, of course. So because I've already actually have a firefly, I won't go through the process of showing you, but if it was nighttime right now and we managed to find one, it would be floating in the sky and around here. It would look like a little bit of light, a little bit of flicker. You basically put your bug net in your hand and hold spacebar. The best thing that you could do is hold spacebar. If you manage to click on the fireflies, sometimes they go away while you're walking. So I always suggest holding spacebar. There's an animation that goes off if you do it in a different form. So always hold spacebar near the fireflies, because as soon as your character does a swing, it will automatically get a firefly. So I'm going to go back now that we actually have what we need. If I manage to find one the next night, I will show you guys how to get one. But for now, you kind of get the idea that you just hold the bug net in your hand, go near a firefly, hold spacebar, and if your character's animation goes off, you instantly have a firefly. Doesn't matter if the firefly goes away either. Your animation, as soon as it starts, it's a guaranteed catch for that firefly. So, my favorite item in this game, or one of my favorite items in this game, is what is called a miner hat. And your miner hat is going to be really, really useful for going through the actual game without having to worry about holding what is known as a lantern. And a lantern we won't show you right now because we have to go in the caves for that. So first, you need a firefly. Second, you need to make yourself a handy dandy straw hat. Now, straw hats are not really that useful in this game. They basically block, they give you a little bit of waterproof, and they give you a little bit of heat protection during the summertime, but in this case we're making it for an alternate reason. So you take the hat, put that in your inventory, place your firefly next to it. You don't have to do it in this order, but I'm just showing you. And third, you want to make sure that you have one piece of gold. So we have all three, and that's how you make yourself a miner hat. Now the miner hat is exactly what we're going to need when we start to work out at nighttime, because if we're going around and we're chopping resources, we're going to need to have this on top of our heads to clear space in our arms. And that's why I generally suggest having a miner hat over a lantern. And a lantern, like I said, we'll show you later on, but basically a lantern would go in your arms, and you'd have to place it down before you do any type of mining. So for me, I always suggest using a miner hat. It's just a little bit easier and it doesn't get in the way as much. But as time goes on, we'll show you pros and cons between each. So I'm making myself the few meatballs that you just seen. 1 meat of any kind and 3 filler gets our nice amazing meatballs. Obviously, as I mentioned before, it's better to cook things before doing it, but I knew that if I made these, I'm just going to be eating them right away and not have to worry about them going stale. So in this case, I didn't bother cooking them first. So as the time goes on, our friends are still out there. They're kind of looking around for a few things. I'm not too sure. Did you guys manage to find any clockworks at all? I didn't know if they did or not. We also still have to make sure that we're going to go get some rocks, but we're going to do that at nighttime. So before we go anywhere, before we get to day 10, remember when I first mentioned at the start of the game, I said that by day 6 or day 7, you need to make sure that you have protection in this game because things will attack you periodically. So we're going to make ourselves some protection right now. Now, you could have done this with the science machine, but you could also do it with the alchemy machine as well too. As soon as you get yourself more than 8 logs, and you manage to set up your base and you have everything established, you're going to want to go into your fighting tab and look at log suits. Log suits are what you're going to need to wear when the hounds show up. So first we're going to make ourselves 2 pieces of rope, and we're going to make ourselves 1 log suit. And now we have protection. 80% protection, meaning that 20% of damage is going to go through when we take the hits. and we have our spear as well too. This doesn't mean you can go run into battle and fight any types of bosses that you want, but it does mean that against basic things like spiders, basic things like hounds to start, you're going to be somewhat okay against protection. So this is kind of what you want to make sure you have in your inventory. So we have our miner hat, we have our thermal stone, we have our log suit, we have our spear, and we have our bug net. Next up is we're going to go work towards helping our friends get some more gold and to go and fill up on some rocks. And we're going to hope that we can find ourselves some nice fireflies. In our next tutorial, we're going to be showing you guys what different resources you should be bringing back to your base and exactly how you should be going about doing this. Before the first time that you start placing things in your base, which I'm going to show you exactly what a shovel is used for, you're going to want to make sure that you get past the first hound wave. And there's a reason for this, and it's kind of odd, but I'll wait for the hounds to show up so you guys can see them yourself. So let's go ahead and let's use some of these pickaxes that we have, and we're going to chop down some of these things. So it looks like our friends cleared out a lot of this area, and they got rid of them. That's how they managed to give us all the gold that we have. I will show you guys the Talbert Fortress, which was once again a set piece. And you want to make sure that you stay somewhat like away from the Talbirds. Talbirds are a mob that is more so not necessarily late game or hard to fight, but they can get in the way a lot, and if they do chase you down if you manage to get too close to their eggs. As you can see, they're standing over top of their eggs. Those eggs are really useful. They can fill you up a lot. You can also do a few things with them as well too, other than just eat them. But we won't get too far into that, so that's for another video. So I'm going to focus on getting a few rocks. As you can see, there's some ice left here that's slowly starting to grow a little bit more. And this ice will get more and more and more into a full glacier as winter starts to approach. So using the show me mod, you can see a thing that says, quote, rock_ice change in 27 seconds. So what that means is that that ice formation is going to slowly start to form into a bigger piece as time goes on. And that timer is going to go up and up and up, like as I mentioned, until winter arrives, and it's going to become a full glacier. So you could either A, mine it now if you wanted to use ice as filler, because yes, ice can be used as filler as well too. Or you can wait until wintertime if you're not in the need of it, as of right now. So it's nighttime. What do? Do we walk around with our torch in our hand? We could. Or we could walk around with our miner hat. I'm going to choose to walk around with our torch. We need to use it anyways. And I feel like using our miner hat right now might be a little bit of wasted resource. And there you go. There's the firefly. So, as I mentioned before, complete darkness, hold your bug net in your hand. It's completely dark outside. Hold spacebar near a firefly, and animation goes through, and you have yourself a firefly. So as you've seen, the firefly did disappear. I will show you how to do it again. Hold spacebar near firefly. The firefly is in the process of disappearing as you're swinging, but because you're already swinging, your character will guarantee to be picking up. Let's do this one more time. I missed that one because I decided to pick up a twig instead. Go like that. One thing you want to be afraid of is that noise. I'll wait for that noise to appear again. That noise is letting you know that you are in darkness and something is about to attack. If you hear that noise and it gets to the point where the sound clip is about to end, you're going to want to make sure that you hold a torch in your hand at that point in time. Otherwise, you're going to be hit by Charlie, which is kind of like an invisible ghost character that you don't really need to worry about too much, but just know that they do damage, and that's very hard to take on early game. You can only take a few hits before you die. So sometimes if your torch is going down, say your torch is at 15%, you can do something what is known as kind of like not torch glitching, but you can hold it in your hand, let it disappear, hold it, disappear, hold it, disappear. During nighttime, your sanity will drain very, very fast if you're in the darkness. If your torch is at 5% and you want it to last longer, you can do that. On the next episode, I will show you how to use your torch if it's at low percentage and you have nothing else around you, no fireflies, no nothing. And it'll help you to get through it. But remember that your sanity will take a hit accordingly. These little guys that you see around here are known as grass geckos, and they tend to appear when if grass ends up being around for a while, they also appear randomly along your map as well too. So we have our fireflies. Our fireflies are what is needed in order to refill and add fuel to our miner hat. But I tend to leave the fireflies alone and focus on the resource that's in the basement, which is also what I call the caves. But I think that for now we'll stick to using fireflies until that. So in this episode, we were able to show you a few different starting points, including what easy game or early game crockpot recipes to use. I'm hoping that in the next one we'll be able to show you guys a few clockwork fights if possible, and hopefully in the next one we'll get over to that pesky dragonfly, which is a gigantic boss that you should be afraid of, and show you how to get some gears from there as well too. I don't want you guys to be too scared of wandering around early game, but I also want you guys to make sure that you're able to see what gets you guys gears, what gets you guys the resources you need. So as always, make sure that you guys have friends with you, because you might end up in a situation when you're out looking at tumbleweeds and find yourself being surrounded by hounds. So make sure that if you are ever going out and looking for things in this game, you're going to want to make sure that you have your log suit before then. I might also suggest not going anywhere too soon before the hounds do show up. On day 9 or 10 is usually when they will. Sometimes you can get a little bit luckier and they'll drag it out a little bit longer. So try not to go on too many adventures solo if you find yourself struggling with death very early on in the game. So you can always have friends back you up, as long as you guys all have your log suits and your spears. We'll be able to show you guys soon how easy it is to fight the hounds for the first few times, as long as you have these resources. So that's about it for now. On the next episode, we'll be able to show you guys where you can get yourself some gears, which is at the clockworks, which are very cool little creatures that try to attack you when you get close. Also, another thing, which is the tumbleweed biome, which is located near a biome with a gigantic boss that can drop some amazing loot. And we'll be able to show you guys probably a few other things as well too. If you guys want to make sure that you leave something in the comment, for example, if you think that I skipped over something, or you want me to slow down a little bit, or you think that the tutorial is good, but you want me in the next video to show you something, including those, I will definitely do that. I want to keep these videos kind of short. Each day in the game is generally can be anywhere from 8 minutes, 7 minutes long, depending on how fast your days are going by. But they always, like I said, I always want to try to keep these videos as short and sweet as possible, but also try to include as much information as I can. So I hope to see you guys soon. And if you guys, like I said, have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments, and I will make sure to look at them and go over them, and hopefully in the next video correct anything that I might have done wrong. But here's our new base with our new crock pot setup, with our new fridge, our fire pit, our new chest, and our alchemy engine that we all made ourselves, and we managed to get ourselves a nice miner hat, a log suit, and a spear, and we're on our way to continuing not starving and don't starve. I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.